Hello everybody, Andy here, and today I'm doing one of the very intensely rare, crispy, fried, deep fry talks where I'm discussing not kill team. Why today? Ask Warhammer Community. They kind of dropped. So if you don't know, Warhammer Community does at least 3 articles every day, normally 4. And today everything they dropped was a bit of a banger, or at least in some way interested me. And normally I don't comment on things if it's not kill team. I know my lane. I try to stay in it when I can, right? Skirmin, burning for the skirmin, if you will. But today, I don't know, they just had some cool stuff that I wanted to talk about, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm going to do today. So let's go. Here we are. That's right. In case you didn't see, so this is such a big one, right? Everybody's very... Okay. 6 years ago, GW began to replace Firstborn Marines, aka the Space Marines that they do, with Primaris Marines, okay? This was... What's the Douglas Adams quote? This was a bad decision and everybody agreed it was a bad decision. No, that's not how it goes. Anyway, so I think it's really, really interesting because since they began to do that, there have also been a lot of rumours, because nobody can like 100% confirm anything that's said, but they seem accurate, frankly, but rumours about why this decision was made, etc., blah, blah, blah. And everyone has, for a very long time in the 40k community, been quite scared that they're going to finally actually just fully Legends, aka remove, stop selling, stop producing, whatever, the Firstborn Marines. And this is their largest swath of that they've done to date. So they're getting rid of actually quite a few models, which is interesting. So let's start. First things first, should this be done, right? You have models. If GW says we are no longer supplying rules for this model, we are no longer selling this model, then that model is essentially gone. It's dead. It's money that you have wasted, okay? Except in this article, the way they phrase it, essentially they just full on give you license and say, hey, you could just use this Firstborn model as the Primaris equivalent, because a lot of these models here have a Primaris equivalent already. So the attack bike is now the ATV Invader. The bike squad is now the, are they called Intercept? They're bikes. I can't remember what they're called. Invaders? Invader ATV? They're probably called Invaders, right? Scout bike squad. We'll talk about the scouts in a sec. Land speeder. So we've got I can't remember what it's called. It's right there on my shelf. But the Primaris land speeder. Land speeder Storm. Well, that's a scout thing, so we'll talk about that. Stalker Hunter. So they've already given us like Space Marines like 2 main battle tanks, which replace this. There's no real reason to ever take this. Ironclad Dreadnought, Redemptor Dreadnought, Ballistaris Dreadnought, Brutalis Dreadnought. There you go. So that's your mid that does everything, long range with a power fist. Then you've got your close combat, and then you've got your long range. Awesome. Assault Squad, so we don't have a replacement for the Assault Squad, but when we saw the Space Marine 2 trailer, we had a Primaris Marine who came down on a jump pack. So it's been all but confirmed that we are going to get Primaris Assault Squads. Company Command, pass. We don't have that. That is the one thing on here that I'm like, oh yeah, we don't. Scouts with sniper rifles. We know where those are, right? And now that we're talking about scouts, the fact that the Landspeeder Storm and the Scout Bike Squad are also being removed, I'm going to throw this out there. I think we're going to get them as well. I think we're going to get scouts, some form of special scouts. That might just be 1 box. I suspect that will be 1 box. That GW in general wants to try and consolidate the number of like individual items they sell, so that's an easy 1 box. And then Scout Bike Squad, Landspeeder, Storm, or just, the Primarisified version of the Scouts in those. Easy. Librarian, we've just been given a new Librarian model in Leviathan. Tech Marine with Servitors, Thunderfire Cannon. We don't have those. Sorry, no, yeah we do. We have a new Tech Marine, a Primaris Tech Marine, but we don't have new Servitors. That's a real big issue. We've been waiting for new Servitors for a very long time because they might not even be fine cast, they might actually still be metal, which is insane. And then the Thunderfire Cannon, which is fine cast, I believe, and it's quite a bad model, which they are also getting rid of, but we don't have a replacement for that. Oh wait. You know what? I take it back. I take it all back. The Thunderfire Cannon, if you just think of this is ground-based artillery, well, we kind of do have that. We have the Fire Strike turret? It's essentially the same thing. I mean, okay, it's slightly different in the way it's used, so this is a tracked handheld vehicle, but the turret is essentially the same thing. Interesting. Also, I think that this is a pretty good kind of guide to, you know how the Battle for Ogram, we were promised that whoever won would get a whole load of like releases leaked. Obviously the Tyranids won. We know, because of what they said there then, therefore, that the Space Marines also have a whole bunch of stuff that is coming for them too. We can assume that in there would be all the new scouts, the assault squad, etc. So there you go. That was kind of the... Oh, right, okay. Let's talk about Firstborn and Primaris weird rumour thing. So you know Age of Sigmar was incredibly poorly received in the way they eliminated like all of your models and invalidated everything and blew up the world, blah, 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 right? And then the new game sucked. No points, bad decisions, just across the board. I believe whoever made that decision was politely but firmly told to leave the company, right? That's all well known. GW then, in response to this feedback from the player and the way they hated what they did, said, okay, you know, we want to make new models, we want to increase the size of our Marines, also they can then re-release the whole Marine range, right? But we can't just blow the world up. We can't just replace a kit, right? That's why we don't get Attack Bike and Bike Squad. We get Invader ATV and Invader Squad, right? They're not just straight up replacing a kit. It's a separate kit that is sold alongside it. The whole reason for that is because of Sigmar being blown up, creating such a negative reception for the company. Cool. However, in response to this, they decided, alongside saying we are going to release a Primaris version of all of these kits, but we're going to sell them alongside each other, and we are then also to prove to our loyal customers that we are not invalidating their models, we are actually going to start a whole narrative in their Black Library series, whatever, and like the whole lore now is going to be around this Primaris Marine, how they're coming to the forefront, how technology is moving forwards again, how cool is the saviour of the world, of the universe essentially, because he brought these to fruition. And it's been, again, heavily rumoured that that is all because they didn't want to have the same issue as Age of Sigmar. They didn't have this grand idea that they were going to say, oh yeah, the Primaris are coming. No, they said, well, we're going to redo all of these models. How do we make our player base not freak out? Because to GW, these are just straight replacements. They're just making us new kits that replace the old kits. And okay, there are a few variations, but essentially it's just updated sculpts across the board, right? But Age of Sigmar freaked them out, and so they decided to make it a whole thing. So for the past 6 years, they've made such a big distinction that no, these are Primaris, they're not replacing the Firstborn. You can use them both, and they're separate units, they're very different. Primaris will fight alongside Firstborn, and that's happened in their game with the mechanics, and it's happened in the narratives that Black Library puts out, and in all of the rulebooks, the codexes, etc. It's all about the Primaris coming back. But it was all just done because they were scared that it would Age of Sigmar alienate everybody if they just swapped out all the kits, which is crazy, right? Like, I mean, okay, like, you should not do an end times for 40k, right? Like, don't scrap everything at once, don't replace every single Marine kit at once. But genuinely, if they had just come out and said, hey guys, we're upscaling the models, we're going to sell, don't worry, you know, we're going to sell the, whatever, tactical Marine squad alongside the new Intercessor squad for the next 2 years, but, you know, eventually we're going to replace it. I don't think anybody would have really cared that much. Well, sorry. It's the internet. People would have been insane for about 2 weeks, but the internet only really has a 2-week memory span, so people would have moved on. Instead, they stretched it out into a 6-year-long arc. And I would like to say, if you're subscribed to my channel, I'd like to give you a big double hello. Unlike GW, I am a wholesome channel. I also like to keep things very polite here, as you're well aware, I'm sure. So hey, if you like what I'm doing, that was indeed a subscriber-only double hello there. So consider liking, subscribing, tapping the bell, you know, all that stuff. If you really like what I'm doing, I also have a Patreon. Let's crack on. So if you're only here for 40k, that's the only thing I had to say about 40k. I just think it's very funny that a lot of people are upset about, you know, Firstborn, and they have a real attachment to the models and such, which I understand. You know, you've paid for them, nostalgia, sunken cost fallacy, all that good stuff. And like, but Primaris are just better looking models. You know, like almost objectively. You can just literally see more on them. Let's move on, all right, okay. And then, GW put out so much more other stuff. I just wanted to talk about it all, really. We'll be nice and quick, don't worry. So this is the Wilder Core Hunters. I don't talk about Age of Sigmar too much on here. I don't really have time to play it. But I think another thing that GW did wrong was focusing so much on Age of Stormcast Knights, and just everything in their world being quite weird, you know? And that's great to a degree, but whenever you're crafting a narrative, you need to have the normal guys, right? What do the normal people look like? Well, finally, 9 years later? Jesus Christ. 9 years later? You know, a decade later, we are finally getting to start to see what the actual regular people in the Mortal Realms, Age of Sigmar, look like. And as always, they have stupid hats, because GW just loves stupid hats, I guess. Like, the helmet's fine, it's not particularly inspired, but it's fine. But why do they have a little cross on top? It's weird. Anyway, this range looks pretty cool to me. There are definitely some misses in there. Again, I don't really like the hats, but like everything else, pretty cool. So I'm minorly excited for the Cities of Sigmar to come out. Yeah, the Dawnbringer Crusade and all that good stuff. We then have the Legions Imperialis. This is just one of the ones they did today, and they showed off for the first time the sprues. Is the sprue going to be? No. Okay, good stuff. Well, they showed off the sprues. All of these little models are just one little thing. You just clip it off at the base and you put it onto your big base there, and that's it. Now, I hate, with a passion, the Horus Heresy. Hey, you know, while we're spilling the tea on Primaris and GW's design decisions, do you know why the Horus Heresy became a game? Because you have two identical factions. No, sorry, you have what, 18 identical factions? But unlike in 40k, where, you know, you have your loyalists and your traitors, your loyalists all have a few different models, but essentially they're just the same model, but you painted a different colour, right? But then if you want to do Chaos, oh well, that's a whole other range, all different models, which is great. But in Horus Heresy, one model has the potential to be 18 different models. And obviously you already have the 9 that are on your side, the loyalists or the traitors, but then because Horus Heresy is just everything's the same, you know, you haven't gotten to the point of crazy chaos twisting things, you can just have one dude be both loyalist and traitor. It's like the whole reason Horus Heresy is a game at all. So If you like the Horus Heresy, that's the level of effort you're supporting. And I'm here for it because I have no work ethic. And so this is inspiring that GW can make money off of the Horus Heresy, because maybe that means one day I could, you know? Anyway, I've gotten a little bit off track on that one. Sorry, what I was saying was, as a setting, I have zero interest in Horus Heresy. Genuinely do not like it. I think it's boring. Space Marines are fine, but like 200 Space Marines that all just look kind of the same, not fine, bit boring, dull. However, I am very interested in the mechanics of this. We know that it's alternating activations in some way. Now, I believe they have said in the previous article that it's based loosely, roughly in some manner, on 2nd edition Epic. So I'm sure that I could just go and like find out how that plays, but I don't want to do that. So I think I'm interested in this right now because it has the potential, right? It's a mass battle game where all your little bases, these 30, I assume they're 32 mil bases, are practically just like little tokens, right? Like, who cares about the models on them? They're too small for you to really see when you're playing the game, right? So that to me says that it could be more like grand strategy rather than 40k tactic, right? And the idea of being able to play a 40k game that plays in a more grand strategy sense, actual strategy instead of tactics, really appeals to me. Alternating activation sounds fun. I fully suspect that my interest will not survive contact with the game. And that's my fault because I have not looked into how the game plays. But just from the teasers we're getting, they're using some buzzwords that I like. That's all I'm saying. Okay. We then have the old world. Now, I don't care about the old world, but it's here, so I thought I'd mention it. Because they put this article out today. I used to collect, what did I collect? Crossbow, repeater crossbows, the Dark Elves, the Dark Eldar, and then Wood Elves. That was my jam, loved them both. I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, for the old world. And you will often hear me when I'm talking about Sigmar saying, oh, you know, the old world, blah, blah, blah. But unless they do something truly diversive from the way the game used to play, which they might do, I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with it because I assume that I'm not going to like it. I don't have time for a rank and flank game. The models here, they're old. You know, I like the new models from GW. I like cool looking, good new models. Old world isn't that. So, fingers crossed, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to it. And if it's good, yeah, like from a gameplay mechanics wise, it could totally suck me in. Or suck me off if you want. But, at this point, I imagine that essentially there are other companies that have done rank and flank better. You need to look at Mantic, Kings of War, and of course Parabellum, Conquest Last Argument of Kings. Right, those are the two big ones that have done rank and flank and probably have a much more modern game design take on it. Whereas I imagine that GW, for all, you know, annoyingly, always harken back to their older versions, and although they put little twists on it, they don't ever allow themselves to break away into truly modern game design because they don't want to alienate past players, and I genuinely think that's holding them back, but whatever. Finally, not talking about terrible old games, we've got Warcry, a new starter set. So this is an interesting one because they've done something they've taken you know, so I think it's new terrain they've got here. I actually can't tell, but I think this is new. But they've given you two Underworlds warbands, which is very interesting, and I have a conspiracy theory about why they've done that. but you will have to watch on Saturday to see what that conspiracy theory might be. Okay, well anyway, there you go. If you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. Allow me to also embiggen myself for you. Oh yeah, there you go. Well, there you go. Honestly, Warcom just gave us so many things. I felt like I had to do a video because obviously, yes, I'm a Kill Team channel, but really I'm a minis channel. Despite if you've seen me on my community post of me trying my absolute best to enjoy 40k and kind of failing, I almost consider that a failing in myself, and I need to dig deeper and find the fun in 40k. So that, everything I looked at just now, if it had the meta community around it, that I could always get a game like 40k, and was also a good game mechanically, I would be lost to it, right? I'm loving Kill Team at the moment, but I'm also kind of enjoying the break in releases of Kill Team. But I am now ready. I had my little time off to play with 10th, right? I am fully ready for the next box for Kill Team. I've got like 3 tournaments lined up already for Kill Team, because I want to start hitting some tournaments. I think, fingers crossed, I'm going to be doing, well, soon-ish, I'm going to restart my Vantage Point podcast. So clearly, if I want to just talk about the game, clearly I'm back into it, right? Anyway, I'm pretty sure I already did it, but in case I didn't, if you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. While so wholesome, thank you so much for watching. Genuinely, hey, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. You have done everything that you need to do as a loyal glass half deader, a deadist, a halfer, a glasser. To support my channel, thank you very much. If you want to support it even more, do consider checking out on Patreon. I give like little things, little trinkets, little objects that will eventually, you know, not enrich your life, but do exist for you at least, at different tiers. But, you know, I like to think of those as a reward for wanting to support me as opposed to the reason to support me. So, you know, hey, if you want more Kill Team in your life, if you want more just all content, do consider checking that out. Thank you so much. I understand I've once again done terribly in like asking for engagement checkpoints and stuff, so I'm not even going to try it at the end here. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.